I was living with my son, yet every breath felt like a battle. Every dollar I earned vanished, and every meal reminded me I was trapped in my own home. Samantha pushed the shopping cart down the brightly lit aisle of the supermarket, her hands tight on the handle. She could feel the panic rising, the familiar weight of exhaustion pressing on her chest. She was supposed to be a mother, a caretaker, yet she felt small, invisible, powerless. Her son Lucas, 38, lived in the same house, yet it wasn't his presence that terrified her. It was the control he had taken over her life. The groceries in the cart were modest: bread, eggs, some canned vegetables, nothing luxurious, nothing that could lift the heavy fog that had settled over her life. Samantha bit her lip to hold back the tears, forcing herself to appear normal to the strangers around her. She couldn't afford to break down here, not in public, not where anyone might notice. "Sam, are you okay?" A familiar voice pulled her from her spiraling thoughts. It was Marissa, her friend since college, carrying her own cart full of groceries. Marissa's eyes were sharp, yet warm, like she could see straight into Samantha's soul. Without waiting for an answer, she grabbed Samantha's hand and led her across the street to a small cafe. Samantha protested softly, "I'm not hungry." Marissa ignored her, ordering 2 cappuccinos and a slice of chocolate cake. She pushed the plate toward Samantha with a firm, playful shove. "Eat, Samantha, before I have to feed you myself," she said, half smiling, half serious. Samantha picked up the fork and took a small bite. The cake was sweet, soft, fragrant, and for the first time in months, she felt a twinge of emotion she hadn't known in ages. Her throat tightened. She blinked rapidly, trying to stop the tears. Marissa crossed her arms, watching her closely. "Now talk," she said, her voice firm. "No diet excuses, no hiding. Tell me everything." Samantha's hands shook. She wanted to lie, to deflect, but Marissa's gaze was relentless. Slowly, the dam broke. She told her everything: the signed power of attorney, the tiny allowance of $400, the secret apartment Lucas had bought with her money, the friends she hadn't seen in months, the humiliation, the isolation. By the time she finished, tears streamed down her face, soaking the napkin she pressed against her cheeks. Marissa was quiet for a moment. Then she said softly but with a biting edge, "You're housing a parasite, Samantha." He's my son," Samantha whispered, her voice trembling. "No," Marissa said, leaning closer. "He's a parasite. And worse, you're letting him feed on you." Samantha felt a chill run down her spine. She wanted to argue, but the words stuck in her throat. Marissa continued, voice calm but piercing. "You're afraid. Afraid of being alone. Afraid he'll leave. So you let him hurt you as long as he stays close. That's not love, Samantha. That's abuse." Samantha's chest tightened. She had lived like this for months, terrified of confrontation, terrified of standing up to her own child. But in that moment, something inside her stirred. A spark of resistance, fragile and quiet, ignited. Marissa cupped her face gently, forcing Samantha to meet her eyes. "You don't have to endure this," she said. "Even if he's your son, you can fight back. And you will." The words felt like a key turning in a lock deep inside her. She remembered her late husband, Michael, and the way he had always believed in her strength. A rush of courage filled her chest, mingling with fear and hope. Marissa squeezed her hand. "I know a lawyer," she said. "Jacob Klein, he'll help. We'll make a plan, step by step. You're not alone anymore." An hour later, Samantha sat in Jacob's tidy office, handing over a folder of documents she had secretly gathered. Bank statements, receipts, notes detailing Lucas's suspicious spending. Jacob's calm, methodical eyes scanned each page. He set his glasses down and looked at her. "You're a victim of financial exploitation," he said firmly. "This is a criminal offense. Your son has no right to do this." Samantha's heart pounded. She had felt powerless for months, even years, and now someone finally validated her fear. Jacob outlined the plan. Revoke power of attorney, transfer remaining funds, gather evidence, file a complaint. Each step was precise, legal, actionable. For the first time in months, Samantha felt a sense of control, fragile but real. Marissa drove her home, talking nonstop, giving practical advice, strategies, and constant encouragement. "Be smart, move fast, but keep it secret," she said. "Pretend nothing has changed. Be the sweet mother he expects. But inside you are preparing to strike." As Samantha approached her house, the familiar shape of Lucas appeared on the couch. A plate of gourmet pasta balanced on his knees, television blaring. He didn't even glance at her. Her chest tightened, but the ember of determination inside her glowed brighter than ever. The fox within her had awakened. It was time to reclaim her life. The next morning, Samantha woke with a strange mixture of fear and determination. The sunlight spilled through the curtains, warm and indifferent, as if mocking the storm raging inside her. She rose quietly, careful not to wake Lucas, and moved to the small kitchen she had once shared with him. Her hands shook slightly as she filled a cup with water, the first deliberate act of control she had taken in months. Today would be the day she began reclaiming what was rightfully hers. Lucas had left early, muttering something about errands and meetings. Samantha waited a few extra minutes, listening to the quiet hum of the house, feeling the emptiness of his absence as both relief and tension. She dressed carefully, her hair brushed neatly, a touch of lipstick applied like armor. Looking in the mirror, she saw not the fragile, exhausted woman she had been, but someone awake, vigilant, and calculating. Someone ready to fight. At the bank, Samantha took a deep breath, clutching the forms Jacob had given her. The young bank manager, whom she recognized from when she had first signed the ill-fated power of attorney, greeted her with a polite smile. "Good morning, Mrs. Lawson. How can I help you today?" "I'd like to revoke the power of attorney I granted my son," Samantha said firmly, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The manager's smile faded as he reviewed the account. "Mrs. Lawson, I see there have been numerous unusual withdrawals in the past 3 months," he said carefully. "Yes," she said, nodding. "That's exactly why I'm revoking it." He handed her the forms, guided her through the notarization process, and advised her to change all account passwords. Samantha completed everything methodically, each action a declaration that she would no longer be manipulated. Her chest felt lighter, yet a quiet fury simmered beneath the surface. Lucas had thought he could control her forever, but he had underestimated the woman he had tried to break. The next step was transferring the remaining funds to a new account. Marissa accompanied her to a branch across town. Samantha opened a new account in her name alone, with no authorized users. The balance, though diminished from Lucas's theft, was still hers. $38,000 that no one would touch again. With each transaction, the weight of months of fear lifted slightly. She felt a spark of freedom, small but undeniable. Returning home, Samantha became the quiet observer. While Lucas was out, she moved carefully through the house, taking photos of receipts, invoices, and documents he had hidden in his room. The folder on her phone grew thicker with evidence: the apartment on Elm Street purchased with her money, the furniture, the extravagant motorcycle he had bought in secret. Each image was a testament to his deception, a weapon she could wield when the time came. At night, she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling a cold, calculated anger settle in her chest. It was not wild rage, but something sharper, more precise. Lucas had assumed she was weak. He had assumed she was compliant. But she was neither. The fox had awakened. 2 weeks passed, and Samantha acted the part of the compliant mother. She cooked, cleaned, smiled, and accepted her small allowance as if nothing had changed. Inside, she counted days, planned moves, and rehearsed confrontations. Marissa called daily, checking in, offering encouragement, and reminding her to stay patient. "You're ready," Marissa said one evening. "Don't rush, but don't hesitate when the moment comes." Finally, the night came. Lucas had gone out to meet friends, leaving the house silent except for the faint ticking of the kitchen clock. Samantha moved slowly to the refrigerator and emptied it completely. Frozen meals, deli meats, leftover sauces, even his favorite craft beers, All went into the trash. She placed a note inside the now empty fridge. From now on, those who don't earn do not eat. Welcome to reality. Sitting on the porch in the rocking chair her mother had once made, Samantha wrapped herself in a shawl and waited. She didn't have to wait long. Lucas returned abruptly, his footsteps echoing through the house like thunder. The door slammed open and he froze, seeing the empty refrigerator. "What did you do?" His voice was sharp, incredulous. "I threw it out," Samantha said evenly. He stepped closer, fists clenched. "Are you insane? How dare you throw away my food?" Samantha stood calm, meeting his furious gaze. "That food was bought with my money, Lucas," she said. "Your extravagance, your theft, your lies. You've eaten for months from what was never yours." He staggered back, disbelief painted across his face. "You managed it," he stammered. "No," Samantha said dryly. "You stole $90,000 in 3 months. An apartment, furniture, a motorcycle, while I survived on $400 a month. That's not management. That's theft." Lucas's face turned pale, almost gray. Sweat rolled down his forehead as he tried to find words, excuses, lies. I was planning for us," he yelled. Samantha laughed softly, a bitter, victorious sound. "For us?" she echoed. "You locked me in my own home. You cut me off from friends. You treated me like a beggar and now you speak of us?" She bent down, picking up the folder with evidence and scattering the photos at his feet. Each page, each image, a testament to his arrogance, his manipulation, his betrayal. "Give it back," she said simply. Lucas's eyes widened, fear flickering for the first time. I don't have it anymore," he cried. "Then leave," Samantha said, icy and calm. The room was silent except for the sound of his breathing, ragged and shallow. Samantha watched him, seeing the boy he had once been replaced by a man who had chosen greed over family. "No apologies," she said softly. "No excuses. Only the consequences of your choices." She turned and walked upstairs, locking the door behind her. For the first time in months, Samantha felt the gentle rise of relief, freedom, and something she had almost forgotten. Peace. The next morning, Samantha awoke to silence. The house felt different, lighter, as if the walls themselves recognized her victory. The empty refrigerator from the previous night still loomed in the kitchen, a silent declaration of change. She dressed carefully, choosing clothes that made her feel strong, capable, alive. No lipstick today. She didn't need a mask. Lucas had not returned, and she felt a cautious relief, tempered by the uncertainty of what he might do next. She poured herself a cup of coffee, inhaling the aroma deeply, savoring a simple pleasure she had long been denied. Marissa called, checking in. "How are you feeling?" she asked, voice soft with concern. "Alive," Samantha said simply. Marissa laughed lightly. "That's the spirit. But remember, stay vigilant. He's unpredictable." By late morning, a letter arrived, slipped under the front door. Samantha picked it up, noticing the familiar scrawl of Lucas's handwriting. Inside, the words were desperate, pleading, laced with guilt he had never admitted aloud. "Mom, I know I went too far. I don't know what to do. Please help me. I need somewhere to stay." Samantha's hands shook slightly as she read. For a moment, old emotions surged, fear, love, doubt. But she remembered the folder, the money, the months of manipulation, and Michael's voice in her mind. Be strong. Be free. She folded the letter carefully, placing it in her purse without a reply. No, not this time. By afternoon, she received a call from Attorney Jacob. "Mrs. Lawson, the police have filed the report and the investigation is underway," he said. Samantha's chest lifted slightly. It was official. The law was on her side. "They will be contacting you for statements and evidence," he continued. "I'm ready," Samantha said firmly. That evening, Samantha walked through the house, inspecting every corner. She moved silently, cataloging evidence, ensuring nothing had been overlooked. The apartment on Elm Street, the furniture, the motorcycle, Everything was documented, photographed, and safely stored on her phone. Lucas had thought he was clever, that his deception would remain hidden. But she had been smarter, more meticulous, more patient. Marissa arrived to spend the night. They sat in the living room, sipping tea, sharing quiet conversation. Samantha described every step she had taken, every calculation, every decision. Marissa listened intently, nodding. "You've become something extraordinary," she said softly. Samantha smiled faintly. "I had to. I couldn't stay a victim forever." Later, Samantha lay awake, replaying the confrontation from the night before. The way Lucas had staggered back, fear flickering in his eyes. The sound of his pleading, the panic in his voice. She realized she had never felt so powerful, not in a cruel way, but in a rightful, protective way. The fox inside her had not just awakened, it had taken control. The following morning, Samantha woke to a harsh knock at the door. Her heart leapt, but she remained calm. Through the peephole, she saw Lucas, holding a small suitcase, eyes red, cheeks flushed with frustration. "I can't stay with friends," he said, voice wavering. Samantha opened the door slowly, measuring every expression, every movement. "Then it's time to face the consequences," she said evenly. Lucas froze, confusion and fear mingling on his face. You can't do this to me," he stammered. "I already have," Samantha said firmly. She handed him the eviction notice. 48 hours, she added. His hands trembled as he took it, nearly dropping the paper. I have nowhere to go," he whispered. Samantha's expression softened slightly, but not enough to betray weakness. "That's no longer my concern," she said. For the first time, Lucas seemed small, fragile, human. The man who had dominated her for months was now powerless in the face of her resolve. 3 days passed, and Lucas had not caused a scene. Samantha moved through the house with cautious freedom, reclaiming spaces he had once occupied with entitlement. She cleaned the living room, rearranged furniture, and replaced small things he had broken or neglected. It was as if she were healing not just the house, but herself. Then came the unexpected call from Michael's attorney, Mrs. Esther. "Mrs. Lawson, there is a document your late husband instructed me to deliver," she said, her voice calm but serious. Samantha felt a chill run down her spine. "What kind of document?" she asked. "A letter," Mrs. Esther replied. "You are to receive it only if Lucas ever tried to take advantage of you," she added. Samantha's hands trembled as she arrived at the office. Mrs. Esther greeted her, offering a rare smile of sympathy. The envelope was old, sealed with red wax, handwriting familiar and uneven. To Samantha, it read, "Open only if Lucas becomes the man I feared he might." Her heart pounded as she broke the seal. Inside were 3 handwritten pages, words penned with a mixture of fear, love, and regret. Michael had known. He had foreseen the danger, the deceit, and the manipulation. He had written these words not to punish, but to protect her. "Samantha, if you are reading this, it means my fear has come true. Lucas has tried to take what belongs to you. I am no longer there to protect you, but you must be strong. Never blame yourself. You are the best mother, the strongest woman. The problem has never been yours. Be free, be whole. Love, Michael." Samantha's tears fell silently, not for sadness, but for release, for vindication, for understanding. She forgave not Lucas, but herself. She realized she had been strong all along. She had just forgotten. That night, she held the letter to her chest, gazing at the star-filled sky. The house, once a cage, felt warm, alive, protective. Marissa slept in the guest room, the quiet presence of another soul comforting her. Samantha whispered softly, "Thank you, Michael. Thank you for believing I could rise." For the first time in months, Samantha slept without fear. The nightmares had vanished, replaced by a calm, powerful sense of control. She was not alone. She was free. And for the first time in a long time, she believed in tomorrow. The morning sun filtered through the sheer curtains, painting the room with gentle gold. Samantha sat on the edge of her bed, hands clasped, breathing deeply. For the first time, she felt the luxury of unhurried time. No demands, no manipulation, no fear. Clara, her new tenant, knocked softly and entered with a tray of coffee. "Good morning, Mrs. Lawson," she said, smiling shyly. Samantha returned the smile, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in years. "Thank you, Clara. This is perfect," she said, taking the cup with both hands. They sat together on the porch, sipping slowly. The chirping birds, the faint rustle of leaves, the distant laughter of children playing in the park. It all felt like a symphony of freedom. Samantha thought about the months she had endured, the lies, the control, the emptiness of being drained by someone who should have loved her. Now she was alive again, Marissa called later that morning. "Are you ready?" she asked. "Ready for what?" Samantha replied. "For your first public talk," Marissa said. Samantha froze. "I don't know if I can," she admitted. "You've survived manipulation, theft, and deceit. You've reclaimed your life. Sharing your story will help others. You're stronger than you think," Marissa encouraged. By noon, Samantha had prepared herself. She dressed in a soft lavender blouse and navy skirt, hair neatly combed, eyes alert but calm. Vonda arrived to accompany her, offering support and moral reinforcement. "You're not just telling a story," Vonda reminded her. "You're giving courage to those who think they can't fight back." The church hall was warm, filled with women of all ages. Some were widowed, some abandoned, some trapped by adult children like Samantha had been. The coordinator, Mrs. Ellen, with silver hair and gentle eyes, welcomed Samantha to the front. "Would you like to share your story with everyone?" she asked. Samantha nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. She began quietly, describing the months of silent torment. The control, the financial manipulation, the fear of being alone, the endless small humiliations. Her voice trembled at first, but as she spoke, it grew stronger, steadier. She spoke of Michael's letter, of discovering the truth, of reclaiming her money, and the empowerment that came with taking back her life. Tears filled the eyes of many in the room, but not from pity. They saw themselves in Samantha's story, felt the resonance of a truth they had hidden inside. A woman named Carmen, 72, raised her hand shakily. "My son manages all my money," she confessed. "I'm afraid to fight back. I think I can't do it." Samantha met her gaze directly. "You can," she said firmly. "No one will fight for you as you can. You must stand up. Do it before it's too late. Courage doesn't come from others. It comes from within." Carmen nodded, tears streaming, yet her eyes shone with renewed determination. After the meeting, Vonda took Samantha to their favorite restaurant. They ordered simple home-style food, baked chicken, roasted vegetables, warm bread. They laughed quietly, savoring the taste and the freedom to speak without fear. "You look different," Vonda said. "Different how?" Samantha asked. "Lighter, more yourself," Vonda replied. Returning home, Samantha found a surprise on the porch. A large package wrapped in brown paper, tied with a red ribbon. A card read, "Thank you, Mrs. Lawson, for giving me a home when no one else believed in me. You are the mother I always wished I had. Love, Clara." Samantha's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a sea-green knitted blanket, handmade, soft, perfect in every way. She wrapped it around her shoulders, feeling a deep sense of belonging. That night, Samantha sat on the porch, the blanket around her, staring at the stars. She thought of Lucas, who had vanished from her life. She thought of Michael, who had protected her even after death. And she thought of herself, a woman transformed, no longer a victim. In the following days, Samantha made small changes around the house. She painted walls a soft cream, replaced old curtains, planted flowers on the porch. Every small action was a declaration. This was her space, her life, her rules. She checked her bank statements. $71,000 remained, including restitution from Lucas. Her monthly pension was fully under her control, and Clara's rent added to her security. One afternoon, Samantha received a call from attorney Jacob. "The police have traced Lucas's purchases," he said. "You will be reimbursed for the majority of what he took illegally." "The apartment he bought?" "Sold at a loss. The court has ordered restitution." Samantha felt a quiet triumph. Her patience, her courage, her careful planning, it had all worked. That evening, Samantha and Clara cooked together. They laughed, shared stories of their days, and Samantha realized she was no longer afraid to form new bonds. Her house, once a prison, was alive again. And for the first time, Samantha understood the most important lesson: family isn't defined by blood alone. Late that night, Samantha sat in her rocking chair, the sea-green blanket wrapped around her. She reflected on the past months, the fear, the manipulation, the small victories, the hard-won freedom. She whispered to Michael, "Thank you for believing in me, for protecting me even from beyond. I am free and I am strong." The house was quiet, but not empty. It was filled with the warmth of life reclaimed, dignity restored, and courage rediscovered. The next morning, Samantha woke to a simple breakfast Clara had prepared: scrambled eggs, toast, fresh fruit, coffee with milk. The air smelled faintly of cinnamon and comfort. Samantha smiled genuinely, savoring the taste, the energy, the presence of another caring soul. Her life had shifted from survival to thriving. Weeks passed, and Samantha continued to rebuild her life. She met other women like Carmen, offering guidance, strength, and hope. She organized small gatherings at the church, sharing stories, advice, and meals. Each act of kindness reinforced her own freedom and gave meaning to her journey. One morning, as Samantha walked through her garden, she noticed how vibrant everything had become. The flowers bloomed, the sun felt warmer, the wind carried a lightness she hadn't felt in years. She realized that taking back her life wasn't just about money or legal victories. It was about reclaiming joy, dignity, and self-respect. She was no longer trapped by fear or obligation. Her phone buzzed with a notification. A local community group wanted her to speak at an event for elder women. She hesitated at first, recalling the fear of public exposure. Then she smiled. "Yes," she said aloud. "Yes, I will share my story." That evening, Samantha sat on her porch, blanket wrapped, looking at the stars. She whispered to herself, "I fell, but I rose. I was silenced, but now I speak. I was broken, but now I am whole." The fox within her was awake, fierce, protective, but tempered with wisdom. And for the first time, Samantha knew with certainty she would never let anyone steal her dignity again. The morning air was crisp, almost sharp, as Samantha stepped onto the porch. She held her coffee tightly, feeling the warmth seep through her hands. There was a weight she hadn't expected, a mixture of anticipation and dread. Today, she would finally confront Lucas. Attorney Jacob had called the night before. "They're willing to meet," he said. "You will have a chance to speak directly to him, face to face. It's your choice, Samantha. But it's your power now." Samantha had barely slept. Her mind swirled with memories, Lucas's deceit, the endless manipulation, the theft, and the lies. And yet she felt an unexpected calm. She wasn't the scared woman who had hidden in her own home anymore. She was strong. The meeting was arranged in a neutral office downtown. Samantha arrived first, her hands neatly folded in her lap. She felt a pang of fear when she saw Lucas enter. He looked different. Older, less polished, the arrogance gone, replaced by a cautious wariness. His eyes flicked to her, sharp, calculating. "Mrs. Lawson," he said, voice low, trying to mask something. Samantha stood, keeping her posture straight, her gaze steady. "You took what wasn't yours," she said simply. Lucas shifted, avoiding her eyes. I thought I could manage it," he stammered. "Manage it?" Samantha's voice rose slightly, controlled but cold. "You manipulated my life, my money, my peace of mind. You thought you had the right to control everything I worked for?" Lucas opened his mouth to respond, but Samantha held up her hand. "No, listen, I'm not here to argue. I'm here to set boundaries. You will never touch my life again without permission. You will return what you took, fully and immediately, and you will admit in writing your wrongdoing." Jacob, standing nearby, nodded subtly. Lucas's jaw tightened. I can't give it all back immediately," he muttered. "You don't get to choose the timing," Samantha replied. "You don't get to control me. That ends today." For a long moment, Lucas stared at her, disbelief etched across his face. He had always thought she would cave, that fear would paralyze her. But now, standing there, he realized that the woman he had tormented was gone. In her place was someone fierce, someone untouchable, someone who had survived. Samantha's voice softened slightly. "I don't want revenge, Lucas. I want justice. I want peace, and I want you to understand that your actions have consequences." Lucas swallowed hard. The office was silent except for the faint ticking of a wall clock. Then he nodded slowly. I understand," he said quietly. They signed the restitution papers. Lucas's hands shook slightly, the realization of his defeat settling in. Samantha watched, a quiet satisfaction in her heart. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about reclaiming control, reclaiming dignity, reclaiming life. After leaving the office, Samantha felt a lightness she hadn't expected. The city streets bustled, cars honked, people moved in chaos around her, yet she felt an inner stillness. She thought of Michael, smiling faintly, as if approving her courage. Clara's face flashed in her mind, the joy of seeing someone trust her and find a home. She realized that her fight had not only freed her, but also set an example for others. Returning home, Samantha was greeted by the scent of freshly baked bread. Clara had been busy in the kitchen, humming softly, oblivious to the tension Samantha had endured. Samantha hugged her tightly. "Thank you for being here," she whispered. Clara smiled, squeezing back. "You're my family now, Mrs. Lawson," she said simply. That evening, Samantha sat by the fireplace, journal in hand. She wrote about the confrontation, the fear, and the ultimate triumph of truth over deceit. Each word felt like a release, a confession of the strength she had discovered within herself. The fire crackled softly, and Samantha felt a rare sense of serenity. Weeks passed, and Samantha began to channel her experiences into helping others. She started a small support group for women who had suffered financial manipulation and emotional abuse. Each meeting was filled with stories of courage, resilience, and hope. Women shared their fears, their losses, and their victories. Samantha listened, offered guidance, and celebrated their triumphs as if they were her own. One afternoon, Carmen, the elderly woman from the church meeting, approached Samantha with tears in her eyes. "I did it," she said. "I finally confronted my son. I reclaimed control over my finances, and I feel alive again." Samantha took her hand, smiling. "See, you were never weak. You were always capable. Sometimes it just takes someone to remind you." At home, Samantha noticed small changes in her own behavior. She no longer feared being alone. She no longer hesitated to speak her mind. She had learned that freedom wasn't given, it was claimed. And claiming it required courage, persistence, and a willingness to face one's fears. Late one night, Samantha sat on the porch, looking at the stars. The blanket Clara had given her wrapped around her shoulders. She whispered a quiet prayer. "Thank you for guiding me. Thank you for giving me strength when I thought I had none. May I continue to help others find theirs." A gentle breeze brushed her face, carrying with it a sense of renewal. In the following days, Samantha received invitations to speak at local events and community gatherings. Each time she shared her story, she noticed the faces of those who had once felt powerless light up with hope. Her words became more than just her own. They became a beacon for others navigating similar struggles. One evening, as she walked through her garden, Samantha paused to touch the blooms she had planted. The flowers seemed brighter than ever, reflecting the inner vibrancy she felt. The house, once a symbol of isolation and fear, had become a sanctuary of growth, resilience, and love. Samantha's journey was far from over. Challenges would come, and not all would be easy. But she now understood something essential. No one could steal her peace unless she allowed it. Her life, her choices, her courage, they were hers to command. The final rays of sunlight faded, leaving a gentle twilight. Samantha smiled softly, feeling the weight of the past lift from her shoulders. She had faced the shadows, confronted the manipulator, and emerged stronger. And in that moment, she knew with absolute certainty she was ready for whatever came next. The morning was heavy with gray clouds, the kind that promised rain and whispered of challenges yet to come. Samantha felt a strange restlessness as she prepared for the day. Even though Lucas had been confronted and her life had begun to reclaim stability, a shadow lingered within her. It wasn't fear of him anymore. It was the memory of all the battles she had fought, and the realization that the world could still throw unexpected storms at her. She received a call from her lawyer, Jacob, as she sipped her coffee. "Samantha, we've got another issue," he said, voice serious. A cold shiver ran down her spine. "What is it?" she asked. "There's a claim on one of your properties. Someone is trying to challenge your ownership. It looks like a coordinated attempt, probably linked to Lucas's network." Samantha's heart sank, but she straightened her shoulders. She had fought once, she could fight again. Later that day, she met with her accountant and legal team to review the documents. Every page felt like a puzzle of deception and greed. Her mind raced as she tried to piece together who might be behind this, how they operated, and how they could be stopped. Her thoughts went to Michael, whose quiet strength often anchored her. She wished he were here now, to offer guidance and remind her that she was not alone in the storm. As the days progressed, the attacks intensified. Emails threatening lawsuits arrived. Phone calls with veiled threats came at odd hours. Yet Samantha refused to cower. She organized her defense meticulously, poring over contracts, examining every loophole, and strategizing with Jacob. Sleep became a rare commodity, but determination fueled her. She discovered something unexpected. The more she fought, the stronger she became. One evening, while reviewing documents, she found a handwritten note tucked into a folder. It was from Lucas, written before their confrontation, almost like a confession of his guilt and a warning of what might come. The words burned in her mind. "If you survive me, they will still come for you." Her chest tightened, but instead of despair, she felt resolve. She would not allow fear to dictate her life. That weekend, Samantha visited Clara and found her surrounded by children from the community center. Clara smiled, full of energy, her laughter filling the room. Samantha realized that helping others grounded her, reminded her why she had fought so hard. She took a deep breath and joined in, playing games, listening to stories, and sharing encouragement. In that room, she felt a flicker of peace amidst the turmoil. The next day, a meeting with a powerful adversary was scheduled. The man, Mr. Carter, was known for his ruthless tactics and cold calculations. Samantha entered the sleek conference room, feeling the weight of the moment. She extended her hand firmly. "I'm here to resolve this fairly," she said, her voice steady, yet laced with quiet authority. Carter's eyes scanned her, assessing her strength, perhaps underestimating it. Negotiations began, tense and drawn out. Carter pushed with veiled threats, subtle intimidation, and legal jargon meant to confuse. But Samantha remained focused. She countered each argument with evidence, patience, and unwavering calm. The room grew silent as the hours passed, until finally Carter leaned back, a hint of grudging respect in his eyes. "This isn't over," he said, but his tone carried less certainty than before. Samantha nodded, knowing she had won a crucial battle, but that vigilance was still necessary. Returning home that evening, Samantha felt exhaustion settle deep in her bones. The storm outside mirrored the storm within her mind, lightning flashing against the dark sky. Yet she refused to let despair take root. She lit a candle and sat quietly, reflecting on how far she had come. Every confrontation, every fear faced, every tear shed, it had all led to this moment of strength. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. It was Carmen holding a small envelope. "I thought you should see this," she said, handing it over. Inside was a letter of support from a local charity, acknowledging Samantha's efforts to help women in similar situations. Her eyes welled with tears. Despite the chaos and the attacks, there were reminders of hope, love, and community. Samantha decided to take action beyond herself. She wrote to her support group, sharing strategies for resilience and courage. She encouraged them to face their own challenges, to fight not with anger but with intelligence and steadfast heart. Messages of gratitude poured in, stories of lives changed, courage reclaimed. Samantha realized that her battles were no longer hers alone. They inspired others to rise. One night she dreamed of the confrontation with Lucas, but in this dream, she felt no fear, only clarity. The people around her, those she had helped and those who had helped her, formed a circle of strength. She realized that her courage was amplified by connection, by love, by shared humanity. When she awoke, the storm outside had passed, leaving a sky washed clean, a reminder of renewal after struggle. The days that followed were filled with challenges, small victories, and lessons. Samantha learned to delegate, to trust others, and to let go of the need to control every detail. She discovered that true strength came not just from winning battles, but from allowing others to walk beside her. Her bond with Clara deepened, Michael's presence and memory continued to guide her, and even Lucas's shadow became a reminder of the resilience she had gained. By the end of the week, Samantha faced a critical decision: accept a settlement that would protect her interests but leave certain injustices unaddressed, or fight further, risking time, energy, and emotional exhaustion. She paused, reflecting on her journey. Her hand hovered over the papers. Then, with quiet conviction, she made her choice. Justice, for her and for those she represented, mattered more than comfort or expedience. That night, Samantha stood by the window, gazing at the city lights. The world outside buzzed with movement, noise, and life, but she felt a profound stillness within. She had faced the storm, both outside and within, and had emerged with courage, clarity, and a deeper understanding of herself. No matter what came next, she knew she was ready. The morning sun filtered through Samantha's curtains, but it did little to ease the tension coiled tightly in her chest. Her eyes traced the lines of papers spread across the table, evidence of battles won and battles still looming. Even as she had grown stronger, the weight of responsibility pressed heavily upon her shoulders. She knew that the storm was far from over, and the choices she made now could change everything. Jacob arrived at her apartment, briefcase in hand, a look of concern shadowing his face. "Samantha, I've reviewed the latest filings," he said, setting the papers down. Her heart skipped a beat. "Is it worse?" she asked, bracing herself. "Possibly. They're not backing down, and I suspect more pressure is coming. You need to prepare for a public confrontation." Samantha nodded, determination mixing with unease. She had faced danger before, but the thought of being exposed to the world, scrutinized and attacked publicly, unsettled her. By midday, she was at the courthouse, walking the echoing halls with purpose. Her suit felt heavy, not because of its fabric, but because of the expectations and fear it carried. As she approached the courtroom, the presence of reporters, cameras, and an audience waiting for drama made her pulse quicken. She took a deep breath, recalling the lessons from the past weeks. Courage wasn't the absence of fear, but acting despite it. The hearing began. Her adversaries spoke with precision, twisting facts and invoking emotional appeals meant to sway the audience. Samantha listened, absorbing each word, each insinuation, and carefully preparing her responses. When her turn came, she stood tall, her voice calm but unwavering. She spoke with clarity, presenting evidence, sharing her story, and exposing the manipulations behind the attacks. A murmur ran through the room as people began to see the truth behind the claims. Outside the courtroom, tensions continued to rise. Supporters had gathered, some holding signs, others quietly observing. Samantha's mind wandered to Clara, whose laughter and warmth had been a source of solace. She realized how much the support of her community had fortified her, giving her strength she hadn't known she possessed. Even Michael's memory offered comfort, a quiet reminder of loyalty and courage. That evening, Samantha returned home, exhausted but resolute. She lit a candle and sat in silence, reflecting on the events of the day. Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "You're stronger than you know, but the hardest part is yet to come." Her stomach tightened. Who could it be? A friend, an enemy? A warning? She couldn't tell, but the words resonated deeply. They mirrored the internal truth she had been feeling all along. The fight was far from over, but she was ready to face whatever came next. Days turned into nights filled with strategy sessions and planning. Samantha worked tirelessly, sometimes forgetting to eat, sometimes forgetting to rest. Yet in those long hours, she discovered resilience she didn't know existed. Every obstacle, every threat, every late-night worry was shaping her into someone stronger, more focused, and more unafraid. Then came the breaking point. A media expose painted her in an unflattering light, twisting her story to create doubt in the public's mind. Her phone rang constantly, friends and supporters reaching out, some offering help, others expressing concern. Samantha felt the sting of betrayal and the burden of scrutiny. Tears filled her eyes, but she refused to succumb. She knew that moments like this defined who she was. Not the accusations, not the fear, but her response. Clara came to her apartment late that night, sensing the weight Samantha carried. She didn't speak immediately, but sat beside her, offering silent support. Finally, Samantha let the flood of emotions escape, recounting the pressures, the lies, and the exhaustion. Clara held her hand, steady and warm, and said, "You're not alone, Samantha. We will face this together." The words, simple yet powerful, ignited a spark of hope within her. The following morning, Samantha returned to the courthouse, more resolute than ever. She knew she had to confront the media, the public, and her adversaries directly. She requested a press conference, stepping into the glare of cameras and microphones, her voice unwavering. She shared her journey, the truth behind the attacks, and the strength she drew from her community. People listened, captivated not just by the scandal, but by the courage and honesty emanating from her words. In the days that followed, a shift began. Support poured in from unexpected corners, letters, emails, and messages of encouragement. The attacks didn't cease entirely, but they lost their power to intimidate her. Samantha felt a profound change within herself, a deepening understanding that strength wasn't just about survival, but about inspiring and empowering others. One night, after a long day of negotiations and strategizing, she received a visit from an old friend, David, a journalist who had always believed in truth and integrity. He handed her a small envelope saying, "I think you should see this before tomorrow." Inside were letters from women who had faced similar struggles, thanking Samantha for her courage and for showing them that standing up was possible. Her eyes filled with tears, not of sorrow, but of a heart touched by the impact she had on others. In that moment, she realized that every hardship, every tear, every sleepless night had led to this, the power to change lives beyond her own. The breaking point had come and passed, but from it emerged a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate Samantha. She had faced betrayal, fear, and public scrutiny, yet she had not wavered. She understood now that the battles weren't just about winning or losing. They were about courage, resilience, and the lives touched along the way. And as she looked out at the city skyline, lights shimmering like tiny beacons of hope, she knew that her journey was far from over, but she was ready. The next morning, Samantha awoke with a sense of anticipation that made her stomach churn. Today would not be like any other day. Today, she would face the person who had caused her the most pain, the one who had tried to strip her of everything she had earned and cherished. She dressed carefully, choosing a suit that spoke of strength and authority, the fabric smooth against her skin, a subtle armor. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the adrenaline that surged through her veins. Jacob arrived at her apartment just as she was finishing her preparations. "Ready?" he asked, his voice steady but his eyes betraying concern. Samantha nodded, gripping her bag tightly. "I've reviewed everything." "We're prepared for any challenge," he reassured her. They left her apartment in silence, the city streets buzzing with life, oblivious to the storm about to erupt within the courthouse walls. Inside the building, Samantha felt her pulse quicken as she ascended the steps. Every creak of the floor beneath her shoes echoed in her mind, a reminder of the gravity of the day. Her adversary, Leonard, had a reputation for ruthlessness, for bending truth until it resembled fiction. But Samantha knew the truth, and that truth would be her weapon. She clutched her folder tightly, the papers inside a lifeline. Proof of years of manipulation, theft, and deception. The courtroom filled quickly, reporters jostling for position, cameras swiveling to catch every expression. Samantha took a deep breath, pushing down the fear that threatened to rise. She remembered Clara's words, the encouragement from Michael's letter, and the countless nights she had steeled herself for this very moment. It wasn't just about money or property or even revenge. It was about reclaiming her life, her dignity, and her voice. The hearing began, and Leonard wasted no time launching his attacks. He spoke with precision, his words calculated, meant to belittle and intimidate. He painted Samantha as reckless, irrational, and untrustworthy. But Samantha remained calm, her face an impassive mask, her mind a focused storm. When her turn came, she rose, her hands steady, her voice clear and unwavering. "I have endured years of manipulation and deceit," she began. "My finances were stolen, my privacy invaded, and my dignity disrespected." The courtroom fell silent. She laid out the evidence meticulously, the bank statements, the photographs, the letters, and the notarized documents. Each fact hit its mark, unraveling Leonard's carefully constructed lies. Her voice wavered only once when she spoke of the nights she had cried alone, fearing she had lost everything. But she quickly regained her composure, the strength in her words resonating with everyone present. Outside the courthouse, supporters gathered, their whispers carrying through the air like a chorus of hope. They watched the proceedings unfold on their phones, captivated by Samantha's courage. Messages of encouragement poured in, friends and strangers alike admiring her bravery. Some called it inspirational, others called it miraculous, but Samantha didn't think of it as anything other than the truth finally being heard. By late afternoon, the hearing had reached its climax. Leonard's attacks had grown desperate, his voice raised, his composure faltering. Samantha seized the moment, presenting the final piece of evidence, a recorded conversation in which Leonard had admitted to his actions. The room gasped. The judge's eyes narrowed, reviewing the recordings with increasing interest. Samantha felt a surge of vindication, a spark of triumph lighting her chest. After what felt like hours, the judge called for a recess, and Samantha retreated to a quiet corner. Her knees shook with a mix of relief and exhaustion. Jacob placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You did it," he whispered. "No," Samantha replied softly. "We did it. All of us who refused to let lies win." When the hearing resumed, Leonard's demeanor had changed. The arrogance was gone, replaced with uncertainty and fear. He stumbled over his words, attempted explanations falling flat against the mountain of evidence Samantha had presented. The judge, impartial and stern, made notes, occasionally glancing up at Samantha with a look that mixed curiosity and respect. It was a battle of truth versus deceit, and truth was finally gaining ground. Hours later, the verdict came. Samantha's heart pounded, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. The judge spoke slowly, deliberately. "Based on the evidence presented, it is clear that the plaintiff has been the victim of financial exploitation and abuse. The defendant is ordered to return all stolen funds immediately and is barred from further interference." Relief washed over Samantha like a tidal wave. Tears blurred her vision, not of sadness, but of overwhelming release and justice finally served. Outside, the sun had begun to set, casting golden hues across the city skyline. Samantha stepped out of the courthouse, feeling lighter than she had in years. Clara was waiting, her face radiant with pride. They embraced tightly, a bond forged in struggle and triumph. Jacob handed Samantha the last of the documents, confirmation that the funds had been secured and Leonard's access permanently revoked. That evening, Samantha returned home, the quiet of her apartment a balm for her weary soul. She sat in her favorite chair, letting the events of the day sink in. The fight had been long, arduous, and filled with pain, but she had emerged stronger, wiser, and unbroken. Her phone buzzed, a message from an anonymous number. "Today, you reminded the world what courage looks like. Keep fighting." She smiled softly, feeling a profound sense of peace. The next morning, Samantha awoke to the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. Clara had prepared breakfast, a small gesture that symbolized the life Samantha had reclaimed. As they ate together, Samantha realized that she no longer felt the shadows of fear and doubt that had haunted her. She had faced her greatest adversary, confronted the pain of betrayal, and emerged victorious. And in that victory, she found something far greater than wealth or justice. She found herself. The morning air was crisp as Samantha stepped outside, her senses sharpened by the previous day's victory. Though Leonard's deception had been exposed, she felt that the real battle was only just beginning. Rebuilding trust, restoring her reputation, and finding her own peace required more than legal triumph. It demanded courage of a different kind. She walked through the city streets, the sounds of traffic and distant chatter a backdrop to her swirling thoughts. Every glance from strangers reminded her that the world continued, oblivious to the inner storms she had endured. Back at the office, her team awaited her arrival, eyes bright with admiration and relief. Jacob handed her a stack of congratulatory letters and messages, each one a testament to the impact she had made. Yet, amidst the accolades, Samantha felt a twinge of loneliness. Fame and vindication were hollow if the soul remained unsettled. She realized that confronting Leonard had only opened the door to confronting her own fears and vulnerabilities. Clara arrived, her presence grounding Samantha in ways no one else could. "I knew you could do it," Clara said, her voice thick with emotion. "But this isn't just about defeating him, is it?" Samantha shook her head. "No. It's about facing myself, my doubts, and everything I've been too afraid to confront." They walked together to a nearby park, the late autumn leaves crunching beneath their feet. The world seemed calm, serene, almost oblivious to the storm that had raged in Samantha's life. Samantha's phone buzzed, an unfamiliar number lighting up the screen. Hesitantly, she answered. "Hello," she said. A distorted voice replied, heavy with malice. "You think this is over? Leonard is not the only one who wants you silenced." Her heart skipped a beat. Threats, she thought. She had expected legal challenges, emotional battles, but threats to her safety? Her grip on the phone tightened, knuckles white as the words sank in. This was no longer about justice or revenge. It was about survival. She immediately contacted Jacob, who had anticipated potential fallout. "Did you keep all security protocols active?" he asked, his voice taut with concern. "Yes, but this feels different," Samantha admitted. Jacob nodded. "Then we escalate. Private security, digital surveillance, and a complete review of every vulnerability." "We don't leave anything to chance." Samantha felt a chill. The fight had evolved, morphing from legal battles to a war in shadows, a struggle not only for her life, but for her peace of mind. That night, she returned home to find her apartment eerily quiet. Every creak of the floorboards made her start, every shadow in the corner a potential threat. She locked the doors, double-checked the alarms, and poured herself a cup of tea, trying to calm her racing thoughts. But sleep refused her. Images of Leonard's smirk, the distorted voice on the phone, and the years of betrayal replayed in her mind. Tears came unbidden, not from weakness, but from the exhaustion of a soul weighed down by relentless trials. The next day brought unexpected allies. Former colleagues, people Leonard had wronged, came forward, offering support, testimonies, and evidence of their own. Samantha realized she was not alone. The ripple effect of her courage had inspired others to speak, to act, and to reclaim their own truths. It was a revelation. Sometimes, the act of standing firm in one's integrity empowers countless others in ways unseen. Meanwhile, Leonard's network began to fracture. The people who had stood by him started distancing themselves, wary of the consequences. Samantha watched from a distance, understanding that true power lay not in threats or intimidation, but in unwavering resilience and truth. Her steps, once heavy with doubt, now carried a newfound strength. Every victory, no matter how small, became a brick in the foundation of her renewed life. Late in the week, Samantha faced a crucial decision. She could confront Leonard directly, demanding accountability beyond the courtroom, or she could rise above, allowing the law and her integrity to speak for her. She chose the latter. Sometimes, she realized, victory is not measured by vengeance, but by the grace and strength to walk away uncorrupted. Her decision resonated deeply within her, a quiet but potent triumph that no one could take away. As she left the courthouse for the final time that week, Samantha felt a subtle shift in herself. The fear that had once dictated her every move had diminished, replaced by a calm determination. Her voice, once hesitant and uncertain, now carried conviction and clarity. She had faced deceit, betrayal, and threats to her safety, and yet she remained unbroken. Her tears, once a sign of despair, had become a testament to endurance and unwavering courage. That evening, Samantha met Clara and Jacob at a small cafe, away from cameras and crowds. They laughed, shared stories, and reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Every setback, every tear, every sleepless night had carved a path to this moment of clarity. Samantha realized that true strength often comes quietly, in moments of doubt, in the choices made when no one is watching. She had emerged not only victorious, but transformed, her spirit tempered by fire, and her heart softened by empathy. Before leaving, Samantha looked out the window at the city below. The skyline shimmered under the lights, indifferent to human struggles yet eternally magnificent. She knew there would be more challenges, more obstacles, and perhaps more threats. But she no longer feared them. She had learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but the resolve to move forward despite it. And in that resolve, she found freedom, a profound sense of purpose, and the knowledge that her story had only just begun. The city slept under a blanket of midnight blue as Samantha stood on the balcony of her apartment, the cool wind brushing against her face. She felt a weight lifting from her shoulders, a heaviness she hadn't realized she carried until now. Months of fear, betrayal, and relentless struggle had transformed her in ways she could scarcely articulate. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply, letting the silence speak volumes that words never could. It was in this quiet that clarity began to emerge, like sunlight piercing through storm clouds. The ordeal with Leonard and the hidden threats had tested every fiber of her being. She had questioned her judgment, her strength, and even her worth. Yet through every trial, she discovered truths that no victory could have revealed on its own. Resilience is born not from comfort, but from confronting adversity head-on. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. Samantha thought of Clara and Jacob, the unwavering support that had illuminated her darkest moments. She realized that human connection, empathy, and trust are the true measures of strength. Her triumph was never hers alone. It belonged to those who stood beside her, who lent their hearts and voices in solidarity. Life, she reflected, is rarely a solitary journey. It is a tapestry woven from shared struggles and victories. Every kind word, every act of loyalty, had become a thread in the fabric of her recovery. The next morning brought a sense of purpose stronger than any fear. Samantha knew that her experience could serve as a beacon for others navigating shadows of doubt, betrayal, and intimidation. She began drafting a series of articles and talks, sharing not only her story, but also the principles that guided her through the storm. Integrity, perseverance, compassion, and the refusal to let fear dictate choices became her central message. Her voice, once tentative and cautious, now carried the weight of lived experience and the clarity of lessons learned. On her first public appearance since the ordeal, the auditorium was packed with people hungry for inspiration and guidance. Samantha spoke not of vengeance or anger, but of awakening, of recognizing the hidden strengths within oneself. She recounted moments of despair and doubt, tears welling as she described the nights of isolation and fear. And then she shared the turning point, the revelation that changed everything, the understanding that true power lies in resilience and moral courage. The audience listened, rapt and silent, the gravity of her words settling deep in their hearts. Questions followed, hands rose and voices trembled with vulnerability. "How did you keep going when it all seemed lost?" one young woman asked. Samantha smiled gently. "I allowed myself to feel fear, to cry, to stumble. And then I reminded myself that fear is temporary, but the truth and the choices we make endure." Another man spoke. "How can we find strength when betrayal comes from those we trust most?" She answered, "Look for the allies who lift you up, and remember that their faith in you can restore your own. No one has to face darkness alone, and sometimes our courage inspires others more than we realize." By the end of the session, there was a palpable energy in the room, a collective awareness that obstacles, no matter how daunting, could be overcome. Samantha felt tears streaming down her cheeks, not from pain, but from the profound sense of connection and hope. Every story shared, every hand held, every nod of understanding reinforced her belief that adversity, when confronted with integrity, becomes a catalyst for growth and unity. That evening, as she returned home, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. Leonard's schemes, the threats, the betrayals, none could diminish the lessons she had gleaned or the inner peace she had cultivated. Life would continue to present challenges, perhaps even greater than before, but she now understood that her response mattered more than the obstacles themselves. Each setback could be transformed into insight, each heartbreak into empathy, and each fear into determination. Samantha opened her laptop and began typing a message to her growing audience, a call to action that was both gentle and firm. "Share your truth, stand for what is right, and embrace the courage within you," she wrote. "Do not allow fear or betrayal to define you. Remember, resilience is not built in comfort, but forged in the fires of challenge. Subscribe, join our community, and let us walk this path together, learning, growing, and lifting one another." As she hit send, a sense of completion washed over her. The journey that began with betrayal and fear had evolved into one of purpose, empowerment, and hope. She had not only reclaimed her life, but had also turned her story into a beacon for others. Samantha understood that true victory is measured not by what we conquer externally, but by the transformation within. And in that awakening, she found freedom, clarity, and an unshakable sense of peace. Night settled over the city once more, quiet and infinite. Samantha looked out the window, feeling the pulse of life beyond her walls, the hum of human struggle, hope, and resilience all intertwined. She knew challenges would come again, but fear no longer had a foothold. She had learned to trust herself, trust others, and trust that light can emerge even from the darkest shadows. Her story, though personal, was now a testament to anyone willing to stand firm, to act with courage, and to embrace their own awakening. And as the first stars appeared in the sky, Samantha whispered softly, more to herself than anyone else, "This is not the end. It is only the beginning."